Hello and welcome to the second video in this multi-reader sync series for factory automation. In this video, I will show you how to set up Dataman readers for an application using MRS. I'll show wiring, software setup, and proper reader group behavior. I should start by saying that while all Ethernet-enabled Dataman devices can support MRS, it is not recommended to mix and match models in a single group. For example, a Dataman 262 should not be in a multi-reader sync group with the Dataman 474. I have here a Dataman 474 and a Dataman 475. The differing resolution is fine. It's still best to ensure that they are using the same firmware version though. Before I can configure MRS on these devices, I need to connect them for communications and power. I'll use my Cognex Deluxe I/O box as an unmanaged network switch and connect my readers using Cognex standard X-coded Ethernet cables. It is best to connect all readers in an MRS group to a single switch because additional network nodes can add latency. And it is of course better to use gigabit Ethernet ports for faster communication. Now I will also connect my power cables. This is all the wiring that is required. While my readers boot, I'm going to hold down the trigger button to force a factory reset. That way I'm not starting with any unknown settings that could affect my setup. Once my readers boot up, I can organize them into groups using Edge Intelligence or Dataman Setup tool. I'm first going to show you how to create groups in Edge Intelligence because it has convenient network tools and it prevents reader group mismatches on my PC, which I'll talk more about in a moment. Once logged into my EI device, I can see my readers on the multi-reader configuration Dataman page. Here I can see that my readers are standalone, meaning that they are not yet in an MRS group. Selecting both of them, I can use the Add Selected to Group button to open the multi-device edit dialog. Like I said in the first video, MRS groups are named collections of Dataman readers. So I will name this group Simulated Assembly Line 1. Then I must select a reader to be my primary device. This choice will determine which reader is responsible for the final output and which device my trigger signal should be wired to. I'm going to choose my Dataman 474 because it will be doing slightly less work when decoding as a result of its lower resolution. It is best to choose the reader that will be doing the least processing on each trigger if you have the choice. An advantage of EI for this step is that you can configure network settings while configuring MRS. You can set all readers to DHCP or provide a starting IP that will be incremented and applied to each successive reader. You can see the new addresses above, but I'm going to revert this change and leave my readers in DHCP mode. Finally, I just need to click Save and, in the case that I change the network settings, wait for my readers to reboot.
Switching now to Setup tool and navigating to the Reader Groups page, I can see all the groups on my PC and only those groups. I could import groups from other PCs, or I could click New in order to create one on my machine. Dragging in the readers that I want to include in the group, they show up on the left side and I can rename the group. For now, I'll just call it New Name for Group to show the difference. I need to toggle group triggering so that my devices will act as a single unit and set a primary camera. I'll choose the 474 again in this case. It's important to apply and save grouping settings and then save this group to my PC so that I can access it later. Now if I return to the Reader Groups page, I can see the group that I have made and I can access it from within Setup tool. Returning to the Connect page, I can select one of the readers in my group, and once connected, navigate to Settings, Multi-Reader Sync, where I can see the settings that I have provided for this device. I can see that I'm in group triggering with the group name, and clicking Edit Group, I'm brought back to the Reader Groups page where I can edit this group if desired, and my 474 also appears. If I navigate to the Reader Groups page, I can now see this group again, and I could export it or delete it if I wanted to. I'm going to do this so that I can show you what happens if you don't have a group when you're on the MRS page of a single reader. I still have the group, but now if I try to edit it, it doesn't exist on my PC, so I have to create it. I create a new grouping that is analogous to the one that is known by the device. It has the correct name, but it doesn't have a primary camera. So I can set that and then similarly save and apply all these settings just like before.
Now that I have grouped my readers together, regardless of the tool I used, I should see them triggering together. When I push the trig button on the primary, both lights flash, and when I do the same on the secondary, they similarly both trigger. Trigger signals can be sent from a secondary reader, but it is very bad practice because trigger timing is still managed by the primary device. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching, and continue to the next video in the series if you'd like to learn more about adjusting MRS settings for your application.